recorded.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Public Works and Protection meeting on 12/5/2023. Roll call, please.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Jay Krieger.
Here.
Kelly Service.
Here.
John Burnett.
Here.
Joanne Euclid.
Here.
All right, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Action on the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Comments from the public? Action on minutes from, what do we got here?
October 3rd.
October 3rd, 2023. It's been a while ago. Any corrections or additions are there? If not, a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state your name and address. Limited to 5 minutes. Board rules to listen, not to discuss. Personal items cannot be discussed, nor individual names. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. And looking around, they're all familiar faces and nothing on the TV. Okay, moving on to action item. Action A, consider, discuss, act on appeal denial operator's license for Crespo. You are on it there, young lady. Chris?
Thank you. Attached in the packet is the denial letter, the original application, the second application, and a letter from Crespo, who is appealing the denial of her operator license. Ashwaubenon Department of Public Safety denied her first application for failure to disclose a pending charge, and then the second application, per guideline 2A. And I see she's not in attendance. She did send a confirmation that she would be here, so I don't know what happened.
All right, I guess we'll accept the motion on,
I'll make a motion to deny the appeal.
Second.
got a first and a second denial, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action item 2, consider, discuss, act on ordinance number 012-1-23, creating 5-8-764, parentheses, G, Ashwaubenon Municipal Code, pool safety covers.
All right.
Aaron.
Thank you. As discussed, there was a request by Trustee Krieger to research what other municipalities allow in terms of fencing or whether they allow the use of pool covers and whether that's something that we should consider as a village here. In reviewing other communities, it's roughly half and half. Some allow for pool covers instead of fencing, and some don't. I did include a copy of the survey in there just for reference purposes. I did discuss the option to allow for pool covers with public safety. They were fine with it. They see that it becoming more and more common. So a copy of the ordinance amendment is attached, which roughly basically just allows for a pool cover in place of fencing, and that the pool cover be used whenever the pool is not being used itself.
So I had a resident approach me asking for this, who's considering putting in a pool. And I additionally have also seen this on my brother-in-law's pool in Indianapolis. And it's an automated pool cover that basically when they aren't there, you push a button and the pool cover goes over it. And anybody, you could almost walk across it as long as you're less than 100 pounds type of thing. So it's very safe. I knew that other municipalities had been looking at it, had actually approved it, so I thought I'd bring it forward. This resident is, looking to put in the pool and would like to put in a pool cover. The other thing I'm going to say, I know putting in a pool cover like this is not a cheap proposition.
I've heard of that. What bothers me, I've heard of incidents where a pool cover can trap somebody or an animal underneath it and they die. That simple, they cannot get out. That's why I'm kind of hesitating, do I like this or don't I like it?
Yeah.
To me, a fence is definitely a way to, you're protected. I guess the cover you're talking about might be a little different than the ones I've been
Yeah.
associated with.
This one that my brother-in-law has, I mean, it's really slick, but I'll admit, I know that it's an expensive proposition. Mechanically, you just push a button, so whenever they leave the pool, they just push the button and it just pulls closed. And it is tight on the sides. It's actually in a track. So as far as anything trying to get underneath it, couldn't be done.
Can't be done.
Can't be done. Something couldn't get underneath it from the side. So I felt that I just didn't see any big issue with it, especially since I had the experience with it from actually seeing it in operation and that. So that's why I brought it forward.
What's the top made out of?
Usually it's a vinyl canvas type material. There's a qualifying or quantitative measure of 100 pounds per square foot minimum is what it has to support.
Does it wrap around the edge of the pool then, so that people can't, jump on top of it, a bunch of teenagers, and then go to the side and dip in the pool?
No, it's not that type of an application. It actually is a mechanical operation where it comes off of a roll and then it's in these tracks that goes back and covers the pool. And it's a very, very heavy canvas / vinyl mesh that's on top of it. That it's very, very firm. And I was probably, if you see the type of coverings that sometimes are shaded coverings that you see some places in very, very windy areas, it's made out of that type of material. So it's very, very heavy. It can withstand all the outdoors and somebody can't really pull it off and get on it. It's not like the ones that we're accustomed to seeing that this time of year they're hooked up and somebody could just unhook them and no, it's nothing like that. It's actually a mechanical thing. Like I said, I know they aren't cheap as well.
I'm just concerned about the liability here. Would that be considered an obstructive nuisance?
You mean attractive nuisance?
Yeah.
So the village wouldn't necessarily have to worry about anything with liability purposes. It falls back on the owner, and everything's on the owner, provided that this is adopted, implemented by the board. Because we have the fence option, and then in lieu of the fence, you have the automated covering. And as long as the language has something along the lines of it shall be covered at all times when it's not in use, then there shouldn't be any worry for liability for the village. Now, liability on the owner itself, certainly, if something were to happen. But that's kind of the risk that the owner takes with, one, having a pool, and then two, having a cover without a fence.
Does the village have any pools that will be covering like that?
Not to my knowledge.
No. Okay. I just see a bunch of kids using this like a trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with these two. I know people who have them, and they seem sturdier than we're describing. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like, it's not like the blue bubble wrap floating on top of the water kind of a thing. It's like a structure more because of the tracks that goes along the side, and then it clips on the end of the pool, and it's tight. Are there even like little supports along the way that come with it when it rolls out?
Well, it's not so much supports as there's ribbing that's in the actual cover.
Yeah.
That gives it more of, it's a little firmer than just a one piece of material that stretches out.
Jay, is it similar to a tunnel cover on a truck?
Yeah,
Can we kind of give that?
you could use
description?
that, yeah. It's obviously stronger material, but yeah, it's kind of that type of an arrangement, except, and yeah, the ones that are in the tracks, the tunnel
Yeah,
covers that
yeah,
slide in
yeah.
the tracks, it's basically like that.
What about the switch? How secure is that?
Normally, it's like any other thing around that pool, it's going to have to be completely locked up, and because they're going to have to still have some place with all of their pool, their circulation and their heater and all that. So it's going to have to be locked up and protected. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. I don't know, there's just something about the fence that makes me feel a little more secure in the event of whatever. The gate, it's surrounded by a fence, yeah, the gate can be open, but
I hear you.
Oh.
I don't disagree, but I think in this particular case, for the resident that was asking, I would guarantee you they will have that pool cover closed all the time. Because of the backyard that it's in, they aren't going to want all that crap falling in their pool.
Fences don't always stop kids from either. Like, it's always a challenge to climb a fence too. So it's not pretend that a fence is as foolproof either. So
I'll move to approve the ordinance creating the municipal code about pool safety covers.
I'll second it.
got a first, I got a second, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
I oppose it myself. Motion carried on, oh, we got a tie vote, don't we? No, we're good, okay. Move on to go to village board for final approval. All right, action item C. Get back to my paperwork here. Consider, discuss, act on Lombardi Access Road area pedestrian accommodations. Brian Ricker.
Alrighty, as you guys all may be aware, as part of the TIF funding for TIF 3 was for the addition of pedestrian accommodations along the Lombardi Access Road and Brookwood. With that, as we started scoping the project and getting further into design, it kind of raised some questions as to how do we get those pedestrians from the western side of Argonne into the Titletown area. So with that, you guys probably became aware of kind of this, media got a hold of it last week and kind of informed the public that, hey, we're spending $1 million on pedestrian accommodations. And I'm going to talk about that quick, and then I'm going to jump into kind of our proposed layout and gather any feedback if there is any, or look for a recommendation from the committee. So with that, you may have seen in media that, hey, we're going to spend $1 million on pedestrian accommodations around the Lambeau Field, Titletown area. I do want to break that down a little bit. Yes, we are definitely spending funding on those pedestrian accommodations. However, that $1 million does include the reconstruction of Lombardi Access Road between Argonne and Marley. So there is a full road reconstruct that is associated with it. Along with that, so that's approximately $650,000. Of that $650,000, approximately $150,000 of that is just for sidewalk itself. To get to that $1 million, you take that $650,000 and then you add the $360,000 for burying the utilities, which was previously approved at the last village board meeting on November 28th. So that's how we're getting to the $1 million. Jumping back to the project itself and, where sidewalks are laying out, if I'm able to share my screen, I can start walking through some of that. Maybe, I don't know.
On the O2 meeting?
Oh,
Let's share.
alrighty. So this is kind of we'll say a 10,000 foot view. It's kind of very hard to see in this photo, and I'll get into a little bit more zoomed in locations as we get into the details. But on the west or the left side of the screen here, you have the parking lot to Cabela's. On the right side of the screen or the east, you have the Titletown parking lot. Here you have Brookwood. So what we're looking to do on Brookwood is allow for a crosswalk. Up here, it's not the easiest to see, I apologize, to get you from the west side of Argonne over to the north side of Brookwood. From there, there'll be a 5-foot sidewalk that'll carry you all the way to the east, crossing Marley, heading into that, what sometimes is referred to as a pork chop island or a pedestrian refuge area. And then it would tie into the existing sidewalk that Titletown installed on the south side of Titletown or north side of Brookwood. So that portion of the project's pretty straightforward. When it got to be a little bit more challenging is when we started to dive into the Lombardi access road. The reason for that is there's currently a sidewalk that's existing on the south side of Lombardi, and then it kind of wraps around and goes on the west side of Marley. That is kind of a right turn lane for those that are going eastbound on Lombardi. Through traffic, can travel at a pretty good rate of speed just because there is a pretty sweeping corner there. So what we did is we put a mid-block crossing at that location that you can see in red here, so kind of in the top left. We plan to install a rapid flashing beacon at that crossing, which is essentially a push button that you push, and then there's lights that flash back and forth to alert you that there is a pedestrian that's looking to cross the roadway. From there, we will travel to the east, staying on the south side of the Lombardi access road. There'll be an 8-foot wide sidewalk, 5-foot wide terrace, crossing in front of the grocery store, multiple restaurants, gas station that we're all very familiar with. I'll zoom in here. This is what the Argonne crossing will look like. So there is right now, there's actually an island right now in the median. We'll essentially cut out a section of that median to allow the pedestrians to have a refuge area just in case they do not want to cross all 5 lanes of traffic at once. Then they'll be able to continue their way east on the south side of the access road. Once you get down to Marley, the right-of-way does get kind of tight. The right-of-way will then, or the sidewalk will then suck against the back of curb, and it'll actually have to narrow a bit from 8 feet down to 6 feet, just because there is limited right-of-way. We have spoke with the property owner, and they are not interested in selling any additional right-of-way for the sidewalk. From here, you can cross to the north, which is shown in red. There's a crosswalk there. We'll put in this section of sidewalk that'll tie into an existing crosswalk on the south leg of Lombardi and Marley that has push buttons and all the pedestrian accommodations to get you across. Or if you'd like, you can head south down the west side of Marley. Once you head south down the west side of Marley, you'll be able to cross mid-block, and then from here, if you are interested, you can either go towards Brookwood or you can head into the podium area within Titletown. So with that, we're just looking for if there is any strong feedback from the committee. We do plan to present this to both Village Board and Bike and Ped Committee the second time, just to get our final blessing before we wrap up design. So with that, I'll open it to any questions.
I'll just add to Brian's presentation. We have met with property owners, as he had mentioned, of the Shell gas station, as well as representatives from the Titletown district to kind of review these plans. And much of the suggestions in particular around Marley and the mid-block crossing are coming from suggestions or feedback that we received from both property owners in trying to develop a manner that would be most appropriate and safest to get pedestrians to cross Marley, both from general use point of views, but also during game day type situations. Public safety has been directly involved in some of the conceptual planning here as well, just to make sure that everyone was in communication with each other as to what the needs are. Brian also mentioned that we'll be running this through a variety of committees. This was presented originally to the Bike and Ped Committee with recommendations to create these kind of mid-block crossings as well on Marley. Now there's been some minor tweaks that we'll be walking through the committee there as well. But at some point, we're looking for kind of a final blessing from the village in developing the final plans for the project so that it can go out to bid here early next year for 2024 construction.
Well, this whole intersection was big talk a number of years ago when they were going to build the office building, the apartment complex, the traffic. That's all I heard was traffic, traffic. You know, that's a number of years ago, and now I don't hear nothing. And I just made the comment the other day, we haven't heard boo out of anybody about the traffic problem of getting out of these particular areas here. You know, I was looking at $1.1 million, but that is the whole project, which I'm glad to see that. We spent a lot of money on crosswalks. I guess event day is where you're going to have the traffic. Normal work days, I don't see much of anything going on there. I run through there myself quite a bit. I'm sure Bike and Ped will have their 2 cents worth. They'll change that to go the opposite way probably. But anyway, it's a safety item, so it's kind of ending up that corridor there. Am I right, Chief?
What about?
Yeah, Jack.
The question I would have is, what about winter, snow blowing, things like that, taking care of the actual sidewalks during the winter? How much is that expanding? Is there current equipment going to be able to handle it? Do we have enough time to get that all done? Because we're obviously adding more sidewalk here.
My take would be it would be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
Since this is not being federally or state funded, we do not have any responsibility for removing the snow. So it'd be similar to, we'll use Morris Ave as an example.
Okay.
You know, we installed sidewalk, but it does fall back on the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
The few minor exceptions to that would be those refuge islands in the middle of the street, but we're in that area anyway, doing snow removal.
Correct.
With the appropriate equipment to remove those refuge islands. But anything immediately abutting the private property would be the responsibility of the property owners.
Okay, and you've had the discussion with all the different property owners about they are now going to have to take care of a sidewalk?
We have not yet, but it's something that we do plan to have a public information meeting here in January. Once we get kind of a plan that's buttoned down that everybody within the village is comfortable with, and then we'll start to get some public input and feedback.
There will be a public hearing on that, Brian, you said?
It'll be a public involvement meeting, so it's kind of like when we have like a pre-construction meeting before we have construction projects that you guys are familiar with. It's usually just the village engineer and myself. We meet with the property owners, just kind of get everyone up to speed and on the same page.
Well, it looks like there's already sidewalk all the way down there, right? This is just going to make it wider until it tapers down at Marley Lane, right?
There is presently no sidewalk on the north side of Brookwood from Marley west to Argonne, and there is not sidewalk presently on the Lombardi access road between Marley and Argonne.
Oh, okay. So the green part, looks like there's like a silver line and then there's a green line.
Yeah,
all
so that's what we're proposing. So the green is the green terrace, and I don't know why the aerial photo is not loading all that well, but we'll use this intersection as an example. So here you're at Argonne and the Lombardi access road. So the green is the green terrace, and then the gray,
okay.
the gray that you're seeing is the proposed sidewalk.
Gotcha.
So in other words, you're going to put, you're going to put sidewalks in front and rear of all the businesses along there then?
That is correct.
The other thing that, and Brian may have mentioned it, and I missed it, so this reconstruct of the Lombardi access road will also be a full urbanization of that road. Right now, at present, there is not curb and gutter, at least on the north side, I think.
Correct. There is on the south,
On the
but not
south
on the
side.
north.
So this will have full face curb and gutter on both the north and south side of the road, and then with the addition of the sidewalk, obviously that terrace between the sidewalk and the back edge of curb.
Is there any utility work going to take place? And the electrical?
So out on the Lombardi access road, as for power and communications, yep, we'll be bearing the utilities. Believe it or not, out on Lombardi Access Road, as for water main and sanitary sewer, there is not water main or sanitary sewer in the segment of roadway. All the businesses are served from Brookwood. So the work will include some utility work, so burying the utilities, and then the minor amount of stormwater that'll need to be installed due to the urbanization. When you move over to Brookwood, that's going to be quite a bit more involved when it comes to utility relocates. We have fire hydrants in the way, we have utility poles, we have pedestals that are in the way that are all going to have to get relocated before we're able to put sidewalk through. So that one's a little bit more challenging. There's far more conflicts. There's fences that are right on the right-of-way line that we'll need to work through as to how we're going to get that sidewalk through there. But with the use of pedestrian curb or small retaining walls, we'll be able to make it happen.
Any other questions? If not, I'll obtain a motion to, just recommendation is to move it on to village board, or where are you going with this?
Yeah, that would be correct. So the recommendation would be, based on the concept plan tonight, to move this forward to the village board for consideration. At this point, we're at about 30% design. If it gets approved at village board, that gives us enough direction then to hold that public informational meeting to present to the property owners kind of what the plan is. At that point, the design engineer can put together the actual design specifications and go out to bid. Once bids have been received, then another public informational meeting would be had after the contract would be awarded by the village board. So there'll be two public informational meetings, one on the front end alerting the business owners of the project and the scope of the project, and then one towards the beginning of construction so that they're aware of who the contractor is, who contacts are, so on and so forth.
When is construction starting? What do you have for a date there?
We don't have that spelled out yet, but it'll likely need to be phase construction due to the fact that we can't obviously shut down the driveways on both Brookwood and Lombardi Access Road for those businesses. So the likelihood is that I would say April we'll get started out on the access road, and then Brookwood will follow after that. I would say probably June, July-ish, with hopes of getting everything wrapped up before the Packers season.
So it is a 24 project then, summer of 24 project.
Yep, correct. Yep, it'll be summer of 2024 unless something abnormal pops up.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to proceed with the 8-foot sidewalk on the south side of Lombardi Access Road with crosswalks mid-block in Argonne and Marlee between Lombardi Access Road and Brookwood. Also in the west leg of the intersection of Marlee and Lombardi Access Road.
Second.
first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, that's about it for here. Items for next agenda, bring it to staff if you got something. No other thoughts? I'll need a motion to
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, you're out of here. Have a good holiday, everybody. I don't think I'll